This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast. This is the podcast where we discuss marketing tips, business tips to help assist you in your business journeys. I'm your host, Daniela, and I'm Penji's partnership coordinator. And I'm joined here with a very special guest, Ashelin Walker from Silesky. Silesky? I actually don't know how to pronounce Silesky.
Silesky.
Oh God, none of them are right. Marketing. Hi, Ashelin. How are you doing?
Hi, Daniela. I'm doing great. I'm the digital marketing specialist for Silesky Marketing. It is a little bit of a weird kind of Spanish, I believe it's Spanish origin name. And we are a woman-owned, full-service, fully remote marketing agency based in Baltimore, Maryland.
So cool. It's woman-owned? I didn't know that. I thought it was I did research, but I didn't know it was fully, women-focused.
Yes, we have a mostly women-led team, and it is owned by our owner, Susie Silesky, who is, she's been in the marketing world for over 30 years. She's gets a lot of outreach she's kind of done everything really from event marketing to corporate marketing. And now with this iteration of Silesky Marketing, our focus is on small business, especially, small businesses that are looking to grow through traditional and digital advertising methods. And we also have, our owner has a international background. Even she got her start in the French corporate marketing world. So we have a team of women kind of from everywhere. I'm actually based in the Panhandle of Florida. So we are kind of spread out. We all have different backgrounds and experiences, which I feel like makes this a little bit more unique than our competition.
That's so nice. And Ashelin, you are doing content marketing for Silesky, right?
Yes, I do a little bit of everything within the digital marketing spectrum. So, when I first got my start in marketing, it was a lot of social media marketing, and I still do social media as well as website development. And then my largest concentration of work, especially going into 2025, has been SEO focused, search engine optimization. And that is kind of more where my credentials and certifications lie. I'm more into the analytical, but I got my start in the creative part of the content generation. So I have a little bit of both in terms of my background.
So you started obviously with social media, and you just told me that you were sort of moving into SEO. I know that Silesky is helping a lot of small to medium-sized businesses. Oh my gosh,
I'm going to take that pause as well.
I'm so sorry. We actually were talking about the podcast before where Ashlyn was like, I might sneeze, and it was me who ended up sneezing.
Yeah.
But to get back to that, I'm curious with small to medium-sized businesses, with that being the focus of your branding, marketing efforts, have you guys been giving more of a focus into organic type of content marketing, like growing social media following, that type of focus? Or do you think that with a small business, the success is higher with things like SEO and paid ads and more strategic type of digital marketing?
So that's a great question because I am to the point where we have clients that are really on both sides of the spectrum. We have clients that really have a focus on paid advertising methods, or, especially with smaller clients that are just looking for organic content because they don't have a large budget to curate it. And the best thing that I could say is that, especially going into 2025, and when I was in university, I I was in university during COVID, and there is this heavy emphasis for small businesses to get online. And now that we're 5 years post-COVID, all the businesses are online, large, small, medium, and the interest really, and there's so many different great softwares out there. You can create a website for free. Social media is virtually free. But then, especially for any size business, when you're talking about paid advertising versus the organic content and the saturation of it, what we really started to move into, especially this year, is that organic focus. Because you have just about everywhere you look nowadays, there's advertising on your computer, on your phone. For some people, there's probably advertising in your car. It's there's kind of you get overloaded with it. So what really resonates with people is to have a genuine story and to really build that organic audience, because time and time again, even when you look at statistics, your organic audience, especially for social media, are the most engaged to what you're selling, or what your product is, because they're invested, they're following you, they're wanting to really get to know you. And that's across industries, whether you're selling real estate or you're in the funeral home business. They want to know about you. And that kind of is a huge component of SEO, because that's an organic content strategy focus versus Google advertising, which is that pay per click advertising. So I've noticed, especially with our new clientele or new clients that are coming in, they've had that paid focus of advertising where they're spending $1,000 a month on Google advertising, and they're maybe getting 6 leads a month from it. And you have to kind of narrow it in, think about your organic content strategy, and you will see that investment always pays off more for your business in the long run.
Oh, I totally agree. I think what happens with organic marketing, especially with a small business, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most small businesses tend to be B2C type of businesses where, the consumer is really important to connect with because of the nature of these type of businesses. So organic marketing is going to be more. And I feel like the thing is that it's like you said, connecting with that organic audience is extremely important, but it's also the hardest, and probably the one that takes a lot longer, because you have to sort of show up a lot in order to grow that audience and grow that sort of lead, that that following, and people to be invested in a person.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you talk about older demographics where the marketing was traditional, which is, mailing or billboard marketing, they're not comfortable being on video is a huge thing. And I mean, who is? No one is just like born being an entertainer. But even voice content, even content that's personal to you, posting your dog on social media, it does numbers to getting people engaged into you and your business. And really, like I said, it works across the board. It doesn't matter what you're selling, what you're doing. It is the best strategy to always just be authentic to yourself, and also to have a story, because, the people that are coming in, especially if you're talking even business to business, uh, companies have to focus on what is this other business like. They probably have there's so much competition. What is really selling them on you? You have to really sell yourself, and that's the core component of marketing as a
Yes.
business. So
No, I wanted to ask you this question because I think like I have been surprised with specifically TikTok. I think we've seen a surge of creators who are giving these sort of marketing tips to other aspiring content creators. Like I've that's sort of like a new wave of people who are giving very like marketed type of advice to people who want to become influencers, like how to use SEO to boost your followers, how to grow on Instagram, like and, they're teaching normal people that wanna be influencers how to use marketing strategies to become what they want, right? And they're teaching them a lot of these type of things. Um, but whenever I run into these type of creators, I think to myself, this advice is great for business owners. Um, I wonder if, when you put that on the influencer perspective, if it actually works just as much as these people claim to have it work. I'm not an influencer. I've never really like followed that advice, so I can't vouch for it. Not that I'm trying to talk bad about them, but my question for you, after that tangent is, do you think that there's a difference with how marketing is when it comes to growing like a personal brand if you were trying to become a content creator versus a business? Because I feel like nowadays, they're kind of overlapping, but not really. Um, it's
Yeah.
just such a complex topic.
That is a really good question, and it is extremely relevant to today because I think, when I was a kid, a lot of people wanted to be an astronaut or, you know, something, president of the United States. And nowadays, I have younger siblings that are like, I want to be a YouTuber or I want to be an influencer. And it can be understated amongst everything in the market today. Like I was saying, everyone is online. It doesn't matter. Even with TikTok, that's kind of proven. You have all demographics across the board online now and engage with social media. And really my experience with influencer marketing would probably more fall into early in my career working as an intern in Florida. A huge emphasis of business in the area where I live is tourism focused. And so you have a lot of influencers in the local market. I worked for a small bed and breakfast for over 2 years where we would have a lot of influencers come wanting to have a free stay or to review our product. And we had the person who owned that business was well into his 80s. He was a successful businessman who had, you know, worked for an automobile company in the past. So for an influencer to come in and ask for free, he's like, "What's the value?" And the value can't be understated. The influencers have a following and they have people that are invested in them. And I don't necessarily think that anyone is incapable of becoming an influencer, but ultimately it is almost on the level of what kind of work are you willing to do and to grow yourself as an influencer to make yourself valuable. And in the modern world, there's a lot of different ways to do that. You could either go into a niche, which is, I review cafes. I love cafes. You can trust me because I've been a barista for 20. You have to find your authority too. What makes you credible to have these opinions and to give these reviews of places with an influencer, especially for the younger demographic? You have to think of the ethical implications as well. With AI, especially, like, is AI I think AI, especially these next maybe 3 years, is going to really radicalize that influencer marketing because I already feel like we may not be able to start knowing if these people are real or not really.
Yeah.
Uh,
Actually, to like kind of I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just like I remember there's this new don't ask me the name because I don't know, but apparently there's a new social media app that they're trying to push that is strictly AI based, where you essentially can kind of create a profile as if it was like an Instagram profile, except all of your followers and all the people that you're interacting with are sort of AI created characters. And it's just you are the only real person. So you cannot connect with friends. You cannot add each other. So, like if you know someone else that is on this app, even if you know them and you can find their profile, you would not be able to sort of connect with them or interact with them or follow them or whatever they use because it would have to be like it you have to only have AI people on that social media platform, which to me is insane because it's strictly AI focused, right?
Yeah, it's and I think that there is when we marketing was maybe the first sector of business where AI was immediately like, this is going to change everything that you know and everything that you do. And sometimes not necessarily in a positive or negative way, but that is when it comes to influencer marketing and when it comes to digital manipulation, I see the consumer starting to push back. And it's because there is just a level of inauthenticity and extreme, like, reality, separation behind it. I mean, I will be transparent and say that we don't use AI to make any of our social media content, but we have with clients, like I said, that are older and they refuse to do a voice note or film themselves. We have used AI to create voice, advertisings and like reels and stuff like that. And that stuff actually tends to go over pretty well because at the end of the day, people do want sort of visual video content more than they want to read. That's like gone. People aren't reading anymore. Again, I have younger siblings. They refuse to pick up a book. So we have to, if you're going to be reading, you can do captions, but there has to be the visual and the vocal element there. But I also see there's a barrier. And if people feel that there is a lot of mistrust, which there currently is with AI, with being able to emulate, celebrities, and they're not actually, there's too much conflict. And I do see that that could actually hurt influencers in the future if AI starts to create that huge presence on social media, which I think it already kind of is, which you can tell me what your thoughts are on that. Like,
Actually, I'm interested in specifically with social media influencer marketing, which is kind of what we're talking about right now. I saw this, I follow this fitness influencer who made a video about how Jennifer Aniston, the celebrity, there was this sort of like round table conversation that she was a part of, and you could hear her voice and you could hear her talking about how she stayed having like really skinny and having no belly fat well into her 40s. And she was kind of like giving this advice of how to like her diet and her exercising schedule and how that helped her be like, like have this amazing body. And this influencer made a video on that clip and he said, this is like the real interview is Jennifer Aniston talking about her acting. She's not talking about her weight. She's not talking about her body. She's not talking about her diet or her exercise. And AI sort of used this clip and put a voiceover of her own voice, sort of AI modified to say these things. And there's a sales pitch for some kind of fitness product at the end. And he was like, you need to be careful with what you're consuming nowadays because AI can very much make it seem like this woman who is a celebrity was giving you this advice and making you buy this product when she was not even, I mean, the real interview was just her talking about her acting. And I remember watching that clip and I was just like, damn, like that's really going to change the game. Because I think the mistrust that we had before on influencers was very much like, oh, she's probably just saying this because she wants to get a bag, right? Like, oh, this person is lying about this product because they have a contract and actually the product is not very good. Or this person is just doing an ad and not disclosing it. That is what I think we're traditionally used to feeling when it comes to mistrust with influencer marketing. Whereas nowadays, it's you can take anybody that has any kind of credibility or rapport, like a celebrity who is Jennifer Aniston, and make them say whatever, and then, you know, pitch some kind of product and sort of say a bunch of stuff that's probably maybe not true just to get something to be like pushed into onto an audience. And I think that as like maybe it continues to change and grows, we're going to see a lot of people sort of being deceived by it. And also, we're going to see a lot of people sort of opening their eyes to it and demand that companies, brands, influencers, whoever it is that's promoting stuff online, disclose how much AI involvement there is and to what degree. Like I do think that that's my opinion, how I see the AI industry being changed. The influencer industry being changed by AI.
Yes, I totally agree. And I think when we talk about TikTok, that is maybe one of the caveats that has really put that expose of people who are just influencers to sell you something to make them money in the spotlight. Because I mean, the Kardashians have been doing that for years on through Instagram, promoting little, diet and health exercise stuff. And they've gotten, countless pushback from it. But whenever TikTok really started to blow up, and especially with the TikTok shop, which is kind of exclusive in the US market, it's like I personally can't even use TikTok because it's every other video is an ad. So then you just get that's where you're starting to get social media fatigue and people gravitating away from social media that is not transparent, that does not give them value aside from, wanting to buy a product. And that's a kind of an emerging thing in marketing in general. Um, Content that is exclusivized, informative, and kind of ephemeral, as in, you know, only the people who are like really in the know are allowed to know kind of stuff. That is having a huge rise in response to this media saturation on social media. And I would say that for influencers of any kind, whether that's social media or even like bloggers, for instance, a huge thing would be to tap into that exclusive content, because if you're just posting blogs, for instance, that's getting all scrubbed and eaten up by AI. And so you kind of have to know enough about it to play into it and kind of create a commentary on the value that you're adding and actually making money from that in itself. Because marketing in the past for social media, the more free content you put out, the more people are going to engage with it. And I still think that that's pretty true. But at the same time, if you have like an exclusive club, people are just like flocking to that. I think in last year was a really great model for it, especially in the music industry, because you saw multiple top artists kind of having these exclusive Instagram accounts, exclusive stories. Um,
Groups, the Instagram channels, were they? Right.
yeah, and stories are a huge element of that, like 24 hours and it's gone. That kind of stuff is always something that consumers and businesses really kind of fester into because they want that content. And as an influencer, you shouldn't devalue how much, especially with AI, how much value that content is worth if you're really serving to add something to, the community and to the public. That, like, for instance, with workout channels, they probably are like the masters at creating like apps and websites and like programs that are behind a paywall that, like, if you want to do my plan, then you have to sign up. Um, but also kind of leaning into that the celebrity aspect of AI and celebrities in general. I would say unless you're like a huge mega corporation, the celebrity is kind of out compared to the influencer. People are like, celebrities have become very contentious in society in that, they have a lot of money. They are putting out product with the interest to make more money because they're very young. So people I would say for over 10 years, people have slowly been like, I want the common person. I want someone that could be my next door neighbor or my best friend to give me the product. And so that's where influencers, there's opportunity ahead. but you have to be marketing literate. Yeah, you have to be working the game. You have to be really doing your research on it. And kind of, there's like a quote, I believe, um, the great marketers copy, or is it good marketers copy, great marketers steal? It's like, if it's working for your competition, make it your own. You know, if it works, it will work.
Actually, I think it's really interesting what you said about sort of we've been phasing out of that celebrity marketing strategy. I think it used to work really well, but nowadays it's not only celebrities, but I think you see big influencers also getting rejected. Mm, You see someone, and I think the most successful influencers that I've noticed are usually people who have these type of like I came from nothing, like from zero to hero type of backstories. Like I've seen a lot of pushback for nepo babies, like the idea of nepotism, and just like people who I don't know, like you were talking about the music industry. I think of Gracie Abrams. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's this singer who just came up. Apparently her parents are famous. I'm not really sure who. I think JJ Abrams is her dad, but um I've seen a lot of like the discussion around her being that she is an okay artist, but she's famous because she has a famous family. Um
Yeah.
and sort of her art and her music is getting kind of scrutinized under the guise of would she be successful if she was just a normal person? And then we see someone like Chaperone, where I see the discussion of her being she deserves all of her success because she was a normal woman and she struggled for so many years to be famous. And I think that's really interesting when you look at it from a marketing perspective because it really shows you how the sort of the public is changing to have that kind of like you said wanting more of a human or a person that they find relatable versus someone that they think had kind of had it all handed to them and had always just sort of been um in a situation where they could succeed. So I think we see that in a lot of aspects because I think business wise you're also relating more to businesses that you feel are not just giant corporations that are millionaires, but you want a story of like the hardworking mom, single mom who, opened up her business and now is doing great. Versus like the big giant millionaire CEO that doesn't care about his employees, if that makes sense.
Big time. And that speaks to like a level of marketing in general, where the digital space has even expanded the marketing world and its ability to, serve smaller businesses. Small businesses are so undervalued too. The entire, United States economy really lies on the hands of small businesses because they make 99.9% of the workforce, as well as the concentration of businesses in the US. So when small businesses are really kind of in the perfect spot with the digital space to actually be on the level of a large corporation, but I think large corporations in themselves are finding themselves in a hurdle of people turning against them because they have so much market leverage. But at the same time, there is a lot of capability that they have without they can really set trends. They can really kind of create innovation with that large capital. And so small businesses, the best interest is to always focus on organic first. Let the large corporations work on the paid content, because like you were saying, when it comes to consumers today, they're focused on the little guy. They want to support the little guy. And if you're a small business, you even just being yourself can lead to a lot of generation in revenue. And, not every business is also looking to grow, but even just having a, very solid branding, a lot of our clients that come to us, usually it's like a million different reasons why they might come to our agency, but we usually will audit them down and kind of look at what they're currently executing within their marketing strategy. And we usually find that ultimately the issue is the branding. what are you, because your branding is your first communication out. What do you stand for? What differentiates you? And why are you better than the larger corporations? And usually there is that, even for us as a small agency, we have a better flexibility with being able to do smaller things for bigger people. Um, because we're more flexible. Whereas, when you work with a large corporate marketing agency, you have a full team of people. Or, I'll be honest, there's been even more stress in the field because of, layoffs, et cetera, where I've definitely known people that have everything on their back as a marketing professional, especially within corporations, where it's like you should have a full team, but you have it all on this single person. And that in itself is like a detriment, because you should have different voices involved. You should have, the business owner, you should have the customer, you should have the marketing team involved. And I think that in the past, there used to be an expression that, like, if a recession is on the horizon, the first thing that businesses cut is marketing. I think that in the modern climate, we're about to see a huge shift in that. I think people in businesses, regardless if small or big, are about to, like, regardless of what happens economically, if people are going to start spending less money, they're going to spend more on marketing, because nothing else is going to get them through the door. Like in the past, for instance, if, like, with Starbucks is an amazing marketing example, because they've had a crazy journey. And I think that right now they're on a decline in a large.
Okay, so the marketing discussion around them is just kind of like not supporting Starbucks for so many reasons. I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but I mean, I remember when people were like, I mean, I've seen the hashtag boycott Starbucks online trending. I know that people were not trying to purchase from Starbucks when the Palestine versus Israel issue was very popular on social media. Then I know that it was because of the immigrant situation. I think that now it's, like, there's so many sort of like also just different political situations that influence that idea of people just like actively being like, I will not purchase from Starbucks.
Yeah, and Starbucks has gone through its own. I know back in, I think right before COVID, the last CEO changeover they had, when it was the previous CEO of Walmart, I believe, and they'd made a lot of improvements to their loyalty reward system, but then cut, like, the viral kind of trendy-ish drinks, like the unicorn drink with special sprinkles and stuff, because they were finding that while it was serving a good market, um, marketable material on the consumer's part, it was organic marketing. It was causing a bunch of stress internally on having to, like, keep up with these new recipes. And so instead, they just basically revamped their consumer reward system. And that, for several years, was really successful for them, actually. And now I don't know if they have a new CEO, but they just need another round of changes that kind of take away from the consumer. So their drink sizes have decreased. They're using more ice. Whenever you make these changes that are anti-consumer, you're always going to see this boycotting, especially because I will say, like, there was definitely a time 10 plus years ago where if you're in a certain given area, Starbucks may be your only option. That's not the case anymore. I mean, pretty much there's a local little barista shop. It- And if you're paying $6 for a latte, I'd rather it support my community than support Starbucks. That's just how myself, but other people are thinking nowadays. So Starbucks is not doing enough, I think, to really get the consumer back on its side. And it's not doing enough to even get its employee back on its side, because the cuts they're making are hurting the employee and they're hurting their, you know.
Yeah, and I think like I remember a few years back the conversation with Starbucks was so different because it was so much like um the secret drink and like this is what I do and I order this special pump and like if nobody knows about this but I get this one special thing and it kind of made Starbucks interesting and like ooh, I want to try that secret latte. I think nowadays the discussion is so much like you said, like, no, I'm supporting the little guy. I'm not buying from Starbucks. In a way, Starbucks was more of like a status symbol of like, someone walking around with a
Mhm.
Starbucks cup, and it was always overpriced. It still is, right? Like,
Well,
that
I do. The quality has gone down. The Starbucks' like mission statement, like back in the early 2000s, was the best coffee possible from ethically sourced. Now it's like basically an expansionism mission statement on every corner around every city. But see, that's where they're already that's already a bust because they can't they can't compete with the competition that is evolving around them. So that could only go on for as long as they're in locations that don't have other options. And that's a big thing to think about for every business. If one of my favorite clients, it was my first client coming into Silesky marketing, they do a green burial. They're a green burial cemetery. And that is like something that is kind of a little bit weird, a little bit harder to market. Um, but they're a first mover in their industry and they're doing something that has the green impact. And so when we were marketing them, you have to think like there's probably, even when I think of my area, there's probably like 50 cemeteries across a certain 100 miles span or so. So you have to really think about the fact that someone's niche can really blow up in a larger corporation's interest. So while they may be the first mover, you always have to think about, okay, but what about 10 years from now? Am I still going to be the only guy doing this or providing this 10 years from now? So like like we started with the Spring Burial Cemetery about 3 years, maybe 2 years ago. And they were starting from ground up. Within their first year, they had 200 burials. And
so crazy, like, such a huge number to me, and I like you said, I have seen that kind of happen with I talked to someone who was really into affiliate marketing, and he started it back in, like, the '90s, which is insane that they had that in the '90s, affiliate marketing.
yeah,
And he said, like, "Yeah, we were doing" like, it was obviously a different game back then, but he was one of the first and only people that were kind of giving affiliate marketing courses to people of how to do that, how they could grow on it, and it was obviously he's changed it over the years, but he said, like, it he used to be one of the only people who were talking about this or and doing this. It was so lucrative, and now it's like, you can't it's insane that now it's the type of thing that people know about that are not in marketing. It's just something that the that guy that's walking down the street is gonna know what it is if he's on social media. So it's obviously now so much more saturated, and like you said, his market has changed because it went from being him the only one to sort of his niche being huge.
for sure. And that whenever we whenever I was in school, we read something in our marketing strategy courses called the one page marketing plan. And that book, it's like I think like 100 to 200-page book. It basically deals really heavily with that niche focus. Whenever you're beginning your business, you should always focus on what is going to make me the most exclusive a niche amount of people. So are like one of their favorite examples of that is photography. So if you're trying to get your start as a photographer, you should really set your eyes into a niche of it instead of just saying, I'll do anything, I'll do any photography. You're not going to get any sales. But if you specifically are saying, I do sports photography, or I'm a wedding photographer, or I do pet photography, you're going to blow up, especially if you're able to find within your certain service area what is lacking. Is there like a heavy saturation of wedding photographers, but there's really no one that does pet photography? Boom, that's what you should go into. You should always look for the gaps in the market, especially if you are a small or emerging business. And that's a huge part of entrepreneurial success, is finding the places, the things that are missing that people would still buy into. And affiliate, but again, you have to prepare yourself for when there's like 10 other people that are doing it better, or, not necessarily better, but 10 other people that are looking to serve that niche. That's when you should look to grow, or you should look to serve that market even better, because, it's really a privilege to be able to get in early on any of
Yeah. And it's like you said, I think niching down is going to be so important as we continue growing with marketing. Unfortunately, niches are not always perfect. There are issues with it, but like you said, it is something that we're going to have to be focusing on more. And I think that's a great note to end this podcast on, Ashlyn. It was so great having you. I honestly don't want to stop it, but we're over time, and I have to end it, but it was such a great conversation to have you today.
Yes, it was so great to join your podcast, and I loved the conversation we had today. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Before we end it, though, I do want to give you the space to plug anything. If anything that we spoke about today resonated with anyone, any small business owners looking to work with you, the space is yours.
Well, yeah, so Silesky Marketing, we work with all small businesses. Really, our services have kind of moved into boutique, and we do full service marketing. So we do, email advertising, social media, SEO. Our role now has kind of fell into the consulting field, because a lot of businesses come to us and they're like, I have no idea. I don't know what I need, but I need it fixed, and I need a plan. And sometimes it's, we can do small to really large plans, and we are able to help you connect with contractors that may even help you that are outside of us. For instance, if you're trying to do larger advertising scales, or, we work with industries from all sorts. So like I mentioned, we work from cemeteries to lawyers to, we even have some IT companies and other virtual companies we work with. Nothing is really outside of our range. I also want to plug this book for emerging marketers. It's called See You at the Top. This is an amazing book. And if you're a business owner or a marketer who is in school, you should read this book, because it is so important to know that you can get everything you want in life if you help other people get what they want in life. And that's literally the core focus of this book. See You at the Top by Zig Ziglar. And that is about all I have to say now.
Awesome, Ashlyn. So great to have you today on the podcast. And I will be adding those links to the description of this video so that everybody can go in and watch and access them easily. Thank you so much for being here today. And guys, I will see you on the next episode.
Yeah, thank you.
Goodbye.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.